So Gemara is in Yud Tes Amud Aleph. Take a look at the Mishnah. All right, the Mishnah on Yud Tes Amud Aleph. You see it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so look, this is a fascinating. You guys should. This is a great methodology Gemara. Okay, because it's a very challenging Gemara on how to understand it. So look at this. So the Mishnah says this. The Mishnah says, "Umehechan kor adam es Megilla v'yotze ba'yidei chavasa." You see that the Mishnah?
Yeah.
Okay, what does that mean? Umehechan.
From where? The case?
From where? There's a person.
Read the Megilla.
Right, v'yotze ba'yidei chavasa. And he's what? Fulfills his obligation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whoa. So that should elicit some type of response from this group. The Mishnah says, "Umehechan," right? Korah Adam es Megillah v'yotze b'yidei chavasa. And from where does a person read the Megillah and be yotze is chiyuv? What should you be jumping on?
What does that mean?
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Like,
what do you mean? What does that mean? Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. So Ezra hit it. Okay. That you should like be offended by the Gemara's assumption. What do you mean by the Mishnah's assumption? What do you mean from where? David Sender, right?
Yeah.
You have to read the
whole Megillah.
Whole Megillah. So what's the Mishnah entertaining? What possibility? And yet, watch this. The Mishnah says, Rameir Omer Kula. I'll read. Rameir Omer Kula.
No, you didn't even say that.
Rameir says you have to read the whole thing. Okay? No duh. You have to read the whole Megillah to be Yotzei. But Yehuda Omer Me'ish Yehudi. So Yehuda holds no from Ish Yehudi, meaning that if all I did was read from midway through the second parak till the end of the Megillah, I'll be Yotzei Mechiyav. Okay?
Right.
That's a little crazy. And then what about this one? Rav Yossi Omer Me'achad Remayila. That's the third parak.
What's that?
The third parak. Okay? So Rav Yossi holds a no. If I just read from the third parak on, I'll be Yotzei Mechiyav.
That's
very bizarre.
What's the story?
How could that be?
The background information.
How could that be? How could that be? Okay. Take a look at the Gemara. Okay. Let's see how you guys approach this. Tanya. Okay. You see what it says? The two dots here. Tanya. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai Omer Mibalaylahu. So he's even more makel. He holds that as long as you read from the sixth parak, the Lailahu, not the Dash Nasamelech, okay, you're Yotzei Yechiyav. So we have a very strange thing. We have four possibilities of what you're chayiv, what you're obligated to read for Megillah to fulfill your obligation. Okay. Now let's get a reason. Amar Rav Yochanan. Okay. The Kulan Mikra Echad Darshu. Now it's interesting. Rabbi Yochanan says they all darshan out from one pasuk, meaning that there's one pasuk in the Megillah, and all four positions branch out of that one pasuk. So it says, "Vatichtov Esther Hamalka uMordechai Hayudi Eskol Tokef." So Mordechai and Esther wrote down the entire Tokef. What does Tokef mean?
The happening.
What?
The happening story.
Why would you think that?
I don't know, just from context.
No, so Tokef is more than that. So it's a, well, I want to say no pun intended. I do actually intend to pun, but it's stronger than simply what you're saying. Tokef actually means power. Okay, it's called Tokef. Okay, this powerful thing. Okay, look at Rashi. Kol Tokef lekayim igeres hapurim. Okay, to fulfill the, now notice what he says. The igeres, the letter of Purim, al Tokef, on this powerful thing, right? Rashi says hikbid lahaskir. So they're makbid for you to remember. Okay, meaning that. Well, I want to say what that means yet. Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. So Tokef is the key. So the Gemara says Manda Amar Kula Tokvel Shachas Verosh. So the Shita says Kula. It doesn't actually mean the entire Megillah. It means the Tokef of Achashverosh. Where does the Tokef of Achashverosh start? Vahi Bimei Achashverosh. So the first, you start. Therefore, it's the whole. In other words, when he says Kula, he's not saying halachically you have to have the entire Megillah. He's saying that you start from Tokef Achashverosh, right? Which happens to be the beginning of Megillah.
That'd be the whole Megillah.
That'd be the whole Megillah, but it's secondary. It's not the whole Megillah. That's the essential idea. It's Tokef Achashverosh. Okay, or Umad Amar Meish Yehudi Tokvel Shel Mordechai. Okay, meaning the power of Mordechai. Umad Amar. What do you call it? Me'achad Rima'ileh Tokvel Shel Haman. Okay, Umad Amar B'Mailahu Tokvel Shel Nes. What do you mean? What's Tokvel Shel Nes mean? Why is B'Mailahu Tokef Shel Nes? Remember, that night Achashverosh couldn't sleep. So they learn out. Come on, boys. What do they learn out from that?
It was an ace.
What meaning what? What was the nes about it?
That he couldn't sleep.
But was it that God kept him awake?
No, it was the turning
right,
point.
okay. Exactly. Oh, high five. Turning point. The turning point was that moment. Okay? So the nes, if you want to isolate a moment where the nes nistar is happening, it's B'Lailahu. So they have a very, very strange machlokas here. You have four different possibilities. Okay? First of all, you have this notion that you can somehow read Megillah and not read the whole thing and fulfill your obligation. And the second idea is that you have these 4 different possibilities, right, for which Tokef you have to read. Okay? Let's be careful here. Okay? In order to make it easier for you guys to think about this. Okay? The first sheet that holds Tokef Shel Achashverosh. Okay? I'm going to ask the question in a vague way. If you don't understand it, then I'll try to clarify it. Is that an inclusive position or not? What do I mean by that? That it's inclusive. Okay, what it means like this.
Are you going to say all the other things?
Oh, good, okay. So if you read Tokef Shel Achashverosh, what does that include? It also includes
The other ones.
Tokef Mordechai, Tokef Haman, Tokef Nes. It means like power, okay? But don't get so caught up in the word. You'll see why. But if I say Tokef Achashverosh, I'm including Tokef Mordechai Haman. And if I say Tokef Mordechai, I'm including
the other.
And if I say Tokef Haman,
right.
And if I say Tokef Nes, just a Nes.
Right.
Okay? Okay. So let's assume that's the approach to take. Okay. Now the question is, how do you define this? In proposing that, the question is, what's the main idea? The question you have to take up then is that what kind of concept is it that you only have to have a main idea to be Yotzei? In other words, wouldn't you assume that Megillah you have to read the whole thing, right? By the way, the halacha is that just because Gemara says that just because you only have to read a portion of it, but you have to have an entire written Megillah in front of you. Okay, you can't be that I'm reading from Balai Lahu and the Megillah starts at Balai Lahu. It means that the entire Megillah in front of me, but I'm starting from Balai Lahu. Okay, but let's get that question down first because that's the easier one. All right, well, how is it possible that you can be Yotzei Yochiyah Megillah with only a with only a percentage of the Megillah? Okay, what's it trying to tell you? Okay, look at.
Well, it's not that. It's not.
Rashi says L'chaim Igeres Hapurim Al Tokef Hikpid Lahasker. Right? Hikpid Lahasker. Funny term. Okay. In order to be fulfill, right? The Igeres, the letter of Purim, right? With on the Tokef, they were makpid. They were stringent to remember. Okay. So what's Rashi really telling you? What's the construct then of the Yerchiyah of Kriyas Megillah? What allows Megillah to function in such a way, because it's an Igeres, and an Igeres is about communicating over a message. So when you communicate over a message, as long as you have the essential message in place, right, you're Yotzei your obligation. So that's not such a crazy idea to say that. It's not crazy to say that it's not a sefer. It's not like a sefer Torah. It's an Igeres. As an Igeres, the essence of an Igeres is communication, and you're trying to communicate over an idea. So if the essential thing is to communicate over an idea, as long as you have the essential thing, okay. If that's true, so what does everyone agree is the essential idea to get across by Megillah?
Tukan.
Tokef Shel? No, everyone agrees on one of them.
Oh, the Nes.
Oh, Tokef Shel Nes. So, when you say Tokef Shel Nes, what do you mean by the power of the miracle? What does that mean?
Substance.
It could mean outreach. It could mean how much we can see from it, learn from it.
Okay.
There.
Okay. So then how does that apply to Nes? Why does everyone agrees that
effective?
Well, everyone agrees that you must. Everyone agrees that you can. If you don't read about the Nes, if you don't have Balai Lahu in there, then you're definitely not Yotzei. So what is the theme? What is that theme? What's so critical about that theme?
That part resonates the most.
Resonates? How so?
It's the main. It's the crux.
Why?
The
okay, good. But why?
Why? Because it's what it all builds up to. Because
but what's it?
That was the.
But what's it incorporated?
That's what we're zecher.
Okay.
God's hand in the story.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'm going to take what you just said. Just because what it means is that how could you possibly? You can't be Yotzei Yochiyah Megillah if there's no recognition of Hashgacha. As simple as that. Because you have to have some recognition of Hashgacha Hashem. All right, there has to be some. That's Tokef, by the way. That's the power of God, so to speak. But you have to have some recognition of God. There's no recognition of God in your Kriyas Megillah, then you can't possibly fulfill your obligation. The communication is lacking. You're not communicating over. That's the most. If you want to boil down the idea of Purim of the Megillah, the most basic, it's the idea of Nis, which is Nes Nistar. Yeah. So if you don't have that, there's nothing to talk about. Okay, that's easy. Okay, now let's go to Achashverosh. Okay, now the trick is this is what's so difficult about this. You can't get caught up in who Achashverosh was in a more specific way. But the Shita that holds Achashverosh holds that you must mention Achashverosh, Mordechai, and Haman. Now, also, no one asked a question about
Esther.
Yeah. Now you did.
I thought the last one. I thought the last one was going to be Esther.
No, so Esther is really. I would assume Esther and Mordechai are synonymous. Okay, and I'll prove to you why I think that has to be the case.
Okay.
Right? But the question is that if you look at the Megillah, okay, and you look at the different main characters, okay, each one is what? Each one represents what? What would you say? Each one represents. Okay, what do you mean by theme?
Like, I mean, they give off a different idea to the.
Good. I was saying so. Each one is a different method of life.
Yeah.
Okay. Achashverosh is one type of personality. Politician. Society. Schemer, Baal Taiva. That kind of personality, man in power. You have someone like Mordechai who's the tzaddik. You have Haman who's the penultimate Amalek Russia. Right. So you have these very and the Megillah in a sense is a study of the different methods of these people. There's the different lifestyles. There's the Achashverosh type of life, right? It's not just a snapshot of Achashverosh, but we see him go from Vayim Achashverosh. I'll give you a perfect example, by the way. I mentioned to you guys about the mas, about the tax that did I mention that about Achashverosh taxing the people? I didn't. Did I mention that?
I don't think so.
No. All right. But anyway. All right, so maybe we'll take it up tomorrow. But anyway, the point is that you see Achashverosh, there's a study of Achashverosh's way of approaching life, right? And there's Mordechai's way of approaching life, and there's Haman's way of approaching life, right? Each personality has its own approach to life. Okay, so what's the first side going to tell? What's the first side obviously going to say?
I mean, you have to know every single person's approach.
Okay, so now think about it. This is the trick, okay? This is the trick. Let's take that for now. Let's assume the first side is going to say, you have to mention all the different personalities, okay? Now, then what's the third guy going to say? He becomes easier then. The side that holds only Haman. So what's he going to say?
He's the only person you need.
But
that's the. No, that's the.
No, here's what we got to be careful. Okay, this is what you got to be careful on. Because I know what you're going to say. Say it, and then I'm going to prove that I knew what you're going to say. You're going to say what?
He's like the reason for the nace, kind of the end.
Oh, okay, no. So that's where you're going to get caught. Because then you're going to say that at the very least you have to mention the Russia personality. Right. But then why not? Why that? Why not Mordechai? Okay, why that? You're going to be stuck. You're going to start speculating about why Haman. So why get caught up in the fact that it's the Russia? Why not just say that minimally? You have three dominant personality types.
Right.
The minimal shear is
Haman.
Not Haman.
Mordechai.
Not Mordechai either. The minimal shear is.
Oh, Nace.
No, the minimal shear is according to the third position. The minimal shear is one personality.
Oh, you just want to say personality?
Yeah, it's not Haman.
It's
the personality. You have to mention
the quantity.
Yes, you have to mention at least one personality. Okay, in other words, the first side saying you have to have all the personalities. The third side saying that you have to mention at least one personality. Okay.
Does that mean that the Megillah is like an allegory for life? Is that what it's supposed to represent?
I won't call it that, but I would say is that when you study the Megillah, you study
a symbol for life.
You study different fundamental approaches to how to live your life. Achashverosh represents one approach, Mordechai represents a different approach, and Haman represents a different approach. And not only that, you see how, with Hashgacha, how the different approaches play out. Okay, but the point is, what? Because that sort of thing is synonymous with Mordechai. Okay? Same thing. Okay, they really represented the same thing. All right. Now, if that's the case, just play it out. If that's the case, okay, now comes the fun part. Okay, well, I don't think it's that out there. Why is it that out there?
I mean, it's not like I'm not believable. I just know how you got to that.
To what? Because I'll tell you why after I define it. Then I'll tell you why I got into this direction. Okay. If you hold that's the case, so now what do you do with the second position? Because the second position holds that you don't need all three, right? But nor can you be only Yotze with one. So what does he really hold? This is my move. This is what I think is the critical move here. Okay. It's a little bit of a chiddush, but I like it.
He's not quantity.
Can't be quantity, but he still holds you have to have personalities. Everyone seems to hold that you have to mention these different methods of life or approaches to the world, so to speak. They have to be mentioned. But the second side's funny because he says you don't need Achashverosh, but you need Mordechai and Haman. So why? So you only have two
opposing.
Yeah, the extremes.
More than that.
Not
You're right.
Extremes, but
too easy.
No, it's more than that though. It's more than that.
Conflict.
What do you mean by conflict? What do you mean by conflict?
Personalities.
Okay. Well, no, good. Okay. So therefore, what's it implying then? That's just You're right.
Story.
Right, but what do you see if you have Mordechai and Haman together, right? When you read about them together, what are you really reading about? You're reading about how
they attack each other.
Well, not more than that.
Or like connect, interact.
Interact. That's the word I'm looking for. See, this is the move, okay? This is the move. The second side's saying that it's not enough just to mention personalities, but you have to show their interaction with each other, okay? If that's the case, okay, go back to Achashverosh now. So what's the sheet of Achashverosh really holding? You need both.
Yeah.
You need both all the personalities with their interactions, okay? It's not just enough to see Achashverosh, Mordechai, and Haman as individual case studies, but it's also how the different approaches to existence interact with each other. That's the first side. Second side says, as long as you at least have the interaction of the tzaddik in Russia, right? That's the minimal interaction, right? The minimal interaction of Yotze. And the third sheet holds no. As long as you have one personality, you're Yotze. You understand?
Yeah.
Why is he
Now, why do I know?
Why is he the interaction?
Oh, because why? You tell me why.
What's the point of any of this?
What do you mean? What's the point?
Just that you could understand what?
No, there's a certain critical ideas. There's critical ideas of the Megillah that have to be communicated over to the people when it's read. Okay, in order for you to be Yotze.
Like people's personality?
No, so the Megillah presents two things. It presents hashgacha, and also presents unique outlooks to life. Okay, you have the tzaddik, you have the Rasha, and you have Achashverosh, who's like, again, Achashverosh is also a Rasha, but different kind of Rasha than Haman. Okay, and they're very distinct personalities. Okay, so you have to. So the starting point is that it's not the lifestyle of Achashverosh is so critical. It's not that one versus Mordechai. It's that each one is its own outlook. So you have to at least have, like, let's say you hold the corner of third shita. You're only Yotze with you have to. The minimum share is Haman. What's he really telling you? He's telling you that you have to see one personality. You have to see one dominant personality of the Megillah exposed, okay, and expressed to you. So you study him, okay. Doesn't mean because of Russia, because then you have a problem. Why Rishis more than Tzidkus, right? That's the trap. The trap is to start getting into, well, you would think Russia is more than a tzaddik, or you think tzaddik more than Russia, or you think Nachos is more.
Is that the route you went first?
First I went down that road, but then I realized you're never going to get anywhere with that, because you're going to end up speculating about why you think the personality of Achashverosh, that the Tokef of Achashverosh is more important than the Tokef of Mordechai. That's crazy. How are you going to defend that? How are you going to define the machlokus that way? But if you define the machlokus in more of a categorical way, which is that there's two ideas here. One idea is the individual distinct personality, and the other one is how they interacted with each other. Because that plays a big role in understanding them. There's Mordechai as Mordechai, and then there's Mordechai and how he related to Haman. Okay, how did Mordechai deal with Haman, and how did Haman deal with Mordechai? Right, that's an interaction. So I would say that what I'm positing is that according to the second shita is holding that the first shita is holding that you have to have the maximum personality plus interaction. Okay, the second shita is holding that you have to have a minimum interaction, but interaction requires two.
Right.
And the third sheet is telling you just need one personality.
And why do you need any of that?
Because you need you have to have the personalities of the Megillah. That's the main message. The outlooks that these people had on life, right? Understanding the outlook of the Chacham versus the outlook of the Rasha, right? Understanding the outlook of the Baal Taiva versus the outlook of the Chacham.
Do you think that helped?
Who's the Baal Taiva?
You mean for that idea and not the idea of...
Point. Everyone agrees that Tokef is the central idea, and Tokef must be expressed. Right now, that of course, it's not enough.
Doesn't mean anything.
No, so the first thing is that how do you compare Tokef of Achashverosh to Tokef of Nes? Because they seem to be unrelatable, right? Nes is a miracle, and you can understand the power of that. But what do we mean by the power of Achashverosh or the power of Mordechai? So what it means is that I don't think it means that their physical strength, but I think it means their strength of personality. In other words, they represented certain distinct ways of viewing life, certain types of lifestyles, of approaches to life, of approaches to reality. Achashverosh had his approach, Mordechai had his approach, and Haman had his approach. Three distinct approaches. But the point though is that that's the message that gets across on Purim. It's not just about the Nes, right? That's the starting point, but also you have to understand the outlook of the tzaddik, how the tzaddik views life, how he uses chachma to plan things out, how Mordechai dealt with the situation of the Hashmi, the Harag, Abed. These are all things that you have to study. You know what I mean? So those are the messages of the Megillah. He said, the Gemara says it's May Achashverosh, or May, from this point, May Ish Yehudi. Remember we said before, it's inclusive, right? So the fact that he's starting from a certain point, what is that telling you? It's saying that
personality is important to learn?
It happens to be that Achashverosh comes first. Right? But let's say Haman came first and Achashverosh second. So what would the first side hold? He would hold Haman.
Oh, okay, that's
right?
his thing though. People who start from Mordechai later on.
But Mordechai includes Haman. So why is he saying Mordechai must include Haman? Because he's saying that it's not just Mordechai's not enough. and Haman's not enough. You get both personalities. You get the personality that's tzaddik and the Rasha.
But isn't there
It's
one
more
that
than
just
that.
says the last one?
Nace?
Nace starts from where?
The end. The sixth parak.
So Nace has none of them.
Right, because that's the most minimal share. But the second side
There's
agrees.
no personality touch.
But you're right.
You have no what's
Because,
it called,
but it's, you have no personality. But you have
Why
that
do you learn that?
because you have the most minimal obligation in Megillah is the recognition of Hashgacha. But the third side holds you have to have Haman and Nace.
Right, but he's saying you don't need Mordechai.
You don't need Mordechai. But not because not that you don't need Mordechai. That you only need to have one. If as long as one personality type.
Okay, and then the one who says Mordechai would say, why isn't Mordechai Haman because of conflict?
No, the side that holds you need Mordechai is because what do you get with Mordechai? You get Mordechai and Haman and the Nace.
And what does that show you?
So Nace is because you have the Hashgacha.
Why not?
Mor-
Why is he not important?
But it's not that he's not important. But let's say Achashverosh was in the third
Obviously
part.
less important because you don't need him.
No, because it's not a question of importance. You'd have to have a minimal interaction. You have to have a minimal demonstration of interaction. It's not a question of importance. It's their order where they're presented in the Megillah.
Oh, so it's not really about them as an Adam, as it is just about what they represent.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're going to run into
Not even
why
what
is
they
the
represent, but like just.
because you're going to run into a problem. What is it about the personality of Achashverosh that should dominate more so than the personality of Mordechai? That's because of crazy machlokas.
You could do that though.
No, it becomes very speculative. You can, but it's all speculation. This isn't speculation.
Oh, I see. Where do you like speculation again? You said you do like it.
I got it though.
Oh, right.
You have no choice.
Yeah.